नहीं आवाज तो देनी पड़ेगी आवाज टेस्ट
हाँ नोज टेस्ट लॉग बोलो मेरे को और कुछ नहीं आता फिर
माइक टेस्ट 1 2 3 1 2 3
फिर बोलेंगे आवाज नहीं आ रही
सॉरी
अभी अच्छे से माइक टेस्ट करने के
फिर
बाद
से चला गया
दीदी एक सेकंड ना
यहाँ
किया
आईफोन फिगर आउट
तो
हो
हो
रहा
गया
है
ना?
पहले तब तक देन वी विल स्टार्ट
अबे हो
अरे
गया
वॉइस टेस्ट होगा ओके देन
मुझे स्ट्रीम नहीं करता
they will not get the joke right. All right, I am starting. सही से
ऐसे बुक के पीछे छुपा पे
ऐसे लेके जाऊंगा
हाँ
अरे नहीं यार
कम ऑन यार
when I say तो we show
ओके cool
and we are live. Hi. Wow. All right. We will take 5 minutes today to introduce ourselves because this is a very special day. So welcome you all to episode 3 of season 3 of Two Bookdragons, and here are your Two Bookdragons, Saurabh Sharma, Divya Anandani, और आज हमारे साथ हैं एक और स्पेशल गेस्ट जिनके बारे में हम आपको मिड शो में बताएंगे. ठीक है, सो मिड शो तक इंट्रोड्यूस नहीं करते हैं. लेट्स हैव
Yeah, she can just talk behind the
Yeah.
book.
I will take your exit मुझे कल सुबह पढ़ने जाना
अब अगर किसी को ठीक से आवाज नहीं आ रही है तो अभी बता दो. पॉडकास्ट खत्म होने के बाद बताओगे तो फिर मुझे भी पता नहीं चलेगा. सो थिंग इज आप वो हटा सकते हो, हम मजाक कर रहे थे इतनी देर से.
हेलो
Hi.
So
थैंक्स मैं नहीं हटाती वरना
वी हैव आवर गेस्ट अवंती टेलर, और आज हम बुक के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं. ये आइडिया ना तुम्हारा था. मैं बुक के बारे में बात करने वाले के टाइम पे तुम्हें कवर दिखाने को कह रहा
Sorry.
था.
Girl in white cotton, which is not what it means literally, but just put
जोक
it
प्लग
out
इन ना,
there.
जोक प्लग इन. कूल गेस्ट आना है तो जोक तो
course.
मारना है.
You need someone cool, Gen Z.
So हमने इन्हें बुलाया है ताकि ये आपके साथ द गर्ल इन व्हाइट कॉटन के बारे में बात करें, क्योंकि हम तीनों में से सबसे लेटेस्ट उन्होंने ही पढ़ी है और हम बीच बीच में प्लग इन होंगे, है ना?
That's not the reason.
It is because I said.
इतना भी सच नहीं बोला.
सब बता दोगे तो कोई आएगा नहीं फिर स्ट्रीम में.
As long as Avni is not watching it, सब ठीक है.
Avni Doshi.
Avanti is watching it.
So moving on. Amanda is a big fan of the book, and I would like to know why.
Because it is dark and it is very well written. It has a very good flow and you don't feel lost anywhere. There is a reason for every scene. There is a backstory of a backstory wala person. There are no plot holes in that. So that is why I like it.
So you like that how it flows and the structure is not cut off even
Yes.
when the scenarios keep changing.
Yes, so whenever there is like past present का भी जब शुरू होता है, it is still mentioned properly कि this was the time, this happened and that is why that happened. There is no confusion when the क्या बोलते हैं यार
plot lines.
plot
changing.
lines change.
Okay. Why did you like the book?
The first line of the book.
That's my line.
Yes, I'm glad you asked me first.
Saurabh stealing my ideas.
Oh, obviously क्योंकि बुक डार्क है and it's touching those topics जिसके बारे में आप in this country can't talk at all. क्योंकि
Yeah.
लोगों ने कुछ चीजों को पिनिकल पे बिठा दिया है and they are like whatever they do is for your good. It can't be for your bad. So the thing I'm talking about is parenthood and parents, and उस चीज को टच करते हुए that they could be parent child toxic relationship that you know. Yes. You got the point.
I did.
And it also talks about needing therapy, psychotherapists,
Yes.
and that trauma of childhood showing up in your adulthood also, which is not talked about usually because I'm not going to say.
ये वो that's why I said last time कि वो controversial बात है ना कि which is not illegal but is people have made it illegal morally वाली चीज जैसे कोई sportsmanship के नाम पे भाई rules book में नहीं लिखा है तो वो valid है but people have now set those अपने हिसाब से rules जो है कि भाई ये है इसके बारे में ये नहीं बोल सकते types so that makes this book even more interesting but I'll say that literally all the books that I have read, this one is one of the finest written book. I think barely something could come this close. मतलब उस top elite level की written book है ये. बहुत अच्छी writing है book की भाई. Not the handwriting. बहुत अच्छी writing है book की. And I just, loved it.
Okay. So when Saurabh mentioned that why this book is his favorite is because he said that the first line of the book. Would you like to say what's the first line?
I think you should have it because he took your line.
More dramatic effect. हम दोनों ने हमारा idea चुराया ना.
So now we are from discussion to book reading.
So the first line is, I would be lying if I said my mother's misery has never given me pleasure. And scene.
No, and I want each one of us to explain what we understood from that. और हमें क्यों अच्छी लगी.
Answer in brief क्या करने बोल रहे हो?
Give reason why. 5 marks.
Starting from our guest. From our special guest.
Cool. I did not read into it too much because I was like यार book है कितना ही क्या ही लिख लेंगे इस बारे में and I was very wrong about that. तो when I read that I'm like ठीक है there is I thought it was like a rebel teenager talking about her mother because she doesn't let her do things or be cool वैसा वाला. But it was not the case. This was written by a grown woman and there were reasons behind it which we will talk about later. But मैंने फर्स्ट पेज पढ़ के मेरे को ऐसा नहीं लगा था कि इट वुड गो इन दैट डायरेक्शन सो इट वाज वेरी इसके लिए बिकॉज ऑफ द बुक आई लाइक द फर्स्ट लाइन.
Okay, reverse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know पहली लाइन पढ़ते I could feel कि मुझे वो vibe आ चुकी है that yes it's written by a grown person and is giving it's touching the topic जिसके बारे में कोई भी बात नहीं करना चाहता है and उसी से I was like okay this book में ऐसे 1000 points अब आने वाले हैं from if somebody is bold enough to write this in the first line that means book यहाँ से सिर्फ dark हो सकती है इससे पीछे नहीं आ सकती and man अगर ये इसका first line है तो आगे सोचो last line तक वो कितनी dark होगी that just excited me and I was like एक बहुत topics touch करने वाला है already जिनके बारे में लोग बात नहीं करना चाहते if you could start off your book with that.
Nice. Interesting take. My take is when I read the first line, so as someone who's conditioned to not think of parents like that, be it your mother or your father, and the kind of society that we in general live in, we are, it's just the first thought when you read that book is it's morally wrong to write something like that. But once that thought grows and you realize that this writer has written this, put it out there and published it at so many places that it must be a very nuanced line for her. And obviously as a writer I understand the pressure of first line and I feel she nailed it. So I feel it's a mix of wanting to nail the first line but also her truth and she just brought those two things together. So I feel whose mother's misery gives people happiness?
We don't have that comment yet. Let us know. We read all comments except from our mothers. She'd be like Bela and Chappal waiting at home. Quote, quote, mother's misery.
No, but I feel that, like, I remember yesterday I was telling a friend that we are discussing this and he's like, what it's about? And I explained it to him. He's like, kahan se dhoond ke lati ho ye books? So I really don't remember. तुमने suggest की थी. I don't remember who suggested this book to me.
I think so. Because he's been using this book since 2 years. I've been hearing about this book since 2021. So you can imagine how much you like it.
Yeah, but I think I read White Curtain and I don't know who suggested me this book, but whoever it was, thank you.
You didn't tell me इसके बारे में. ये मेरे को कहीं और से आई थी. Okay, oh, this is very interesting. ये मेरे तक पहुंची है. Quite interesting. Wow. Come on, makes sense.
Practically, ठीक है.
Okay. Moving on.
What?
Moving on.
About the author.
About the author, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
She's a very good author. Let's just say.
I like her. Anyway, so she is based in Dubai currently, but she lived in New Jersey, and she has a degree in art history, a BA in art history, and this was a debut novel, which is like mind blowing, and I think she has written more books. I'm not sure. I think she has.
This has been
Translated into many languages, and it has many different names.
Yes.
So the most, famous one or a recent one is Burnt Sugar, which is the not adaptation. It's the same book with a different name.
It's the same book with a different name for publication.
Publication.
In UK. Yes. And this book has been shortlisted for the Booker Prize 2020. So, I mean, okay, I'll tell you, pick this book up if you are if you want to be uncomfortable, but also at the same time want to challenge how we are conditioned to think. If you're not ready for this, if you're not ready to think and deep dive into that conditioning, willing to unlearn it, not willing is entirely up to you. But if you're not not ready for it, don't pick up this book. You will just put hate comments. And if you're not ready for it, don't listen to this podcast, because again you will just put hate comments.
And just by the way, author's name is Avni Doshi.
Yes.
By the way.
The नाम में क्या रखा है?
What's the name?
F2 Brutus.
Yes.
हम बारी Shakespeare. We jump from Avni Doshi to Shakespeare, so I'll contribute as well.
Anyway.
Okay, so the first part of the book.
Interesting. So the first part of the book, if I'm not wrong, is her introduction from where she is living, what she's doing, and about her and her mother basically. So the main thing I liked it, I don't know if it was in start or end, so I'm not going to say it. I'll say it.
No, you can.
No, I was saying about that names wala.
Yeah.
Tara.
Spoilers alert.
So Tara, the mother, she wanted to raise her child different than her, and everyone thought that her daughter's name Antara was like an adaptation from her name, but actually she wanted her to be different, so it was Antara, UN and Tara, if you know what I mean. And that was like very interesting. And so basically the first part is that she is currently living in Pune with her husband, who is an NRI, which is specified a lot of times, and and her mother lives with her nanny, and her mother's condition is deteriorating. She has Alzheimer's, I think. Early on progressing Alzheimer's, and she's just trying to tackle it, what to do about it, what can we do, what is causing it. And there is she has this thought of, I feel it was not like expressed explicitly, but I feel that it was like, you never cared for me as a child, why should I care for you as a parent? There was this thought I felt somewhere, and which was, I feel like if you are in that position, I think you would think like that. If someone is not paying attention to you, why would you give that care to them? So that was also interesting, because again, we don't think about our parents in that way. So yes, this is what I remember most of it about the first part.
So majorly the book is all set in Pune. So ज़्यादातर सारी चीजें वहीं की हैं, little bit here and there, whatever it is. but Pune is the center of attraction tourism में. और major characters दो ही हैं, mother daughter. कहानी but there are a lot of side characters that you feel are very strong या फिर शुरू में आपको लग सकता है कि oh this is going to be the prominent character but it's just about mother and daughter. First line और end line से पता लग जाता है. Like that's how you realize that the book always had been about those two persons. Everything else was just add-ons.
White noise.
Mr. Dilip के भी होने ना होने से कुछ इतना.
That's Avni's Antara's husband. So, like coming to the theme of the book, I really appreciated. So this book is entirely about one perspective, which is Antara's. We don't get to hear what her mother is thinking or her husband is thinking, and I feel that okay, of course, it is anyway 50% biased because both characters don't have their say. At the same time, because Antara has had such a traumatic childhood with how her mother had behaved with her throughout their throughout her growing years, it's also as a child, if you're experiencing that kind of trauma, you tend to suppress a lot of things that may have been happening around you, and you might also have you might blur visions of reality versus your imagination. So I'm not saying that her mother was not at fault at all, but if as a child you tend to overanalyze and overthink, that by the time when you are an adult and it's still being carried on, it just gets bad. It doesn't get better because you have not left your survival mode even as an adult. And we see that with Antara, like how the book has been progressed, her focus is only on her mother. Everyone else has been turned into a blurred background, sort of a white noise. But so that pattern was very fun throughout the book to discover. Another thing is because, like I said about the trauma, you tend to not remember. So when we read this book, you are not sure whether it happened because it's Antara's memory. It's just that. And again, it's a very traumatic memory, so it's not even sure whether she's remembering it clearly. She's mixing things up, she's putting things here and there. It just goes on to show that it's just flimsy like that. So I think the central theme is about real memories, and also then the whole disclosure to Alzheimer's. So those memories, and yeah, I feel because her mother did not have that trauma that she did, somewhere she wants, like, even if she forgets that trauma, she wants her mother to remember, and that's why she's fighting to find so many cures to Alzheimer's. So,
and even so it is, so what I mean by well written is that uh, this Antara's lifestyle is complete opposite of what it was for her mother. So her mother married I think I don't, who did she marry?
she married this person who was just like neglecting her.
Neglecting her, yeah. And she walked out of that marriage when she had Antara, and she went to an ashram where that Baba took her as her lover. And when she was replaced by another woman, she left the ashram with no plan, nothing, and she left with Antara. And there were a lot of things after that. But Tara is living in her own home in Pune with her husband, and her lifestyle is also a little high class. And it is shown with such distinctions that you can see that they are completely different. And as the story progresses, so whatever is portrayed as their house also, with the reading the house gets darker and darker somehow. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just my imagination, my visualization, and it felt like the rooms got colder, it got no sunlight, like that. So that is why it is so well written.
So I feel it brings out that imaginative perspective of you, which a lot less books do. And considering Avni has this as her debut is really telling, because if she's continuing to write, then I'm really looking forward to her next book and what is she trying to target. But yes, it's very interesting as an take because you will feel this book. Like when you read it, even if you don't relate to it, you might have like a very brilliant relation with your mother. But even though you can, she brings it down to that level where you can feel it even though you're not, she makes you empathetic towards everything that keeps going on, and especially towards this Antara who has so many paradoxic thoughts.
I think एक cool सा छोटा सा plugin part जो है is that this book is so differently written that it literally made us change the flow of our podcast. Because usually we would talk the characters, then the places, then the plot, and then divide the story into parts. हमें jumps आगे पीछे शाम्स में jumps लेने में हमें कोई इतनी दिक्कत नहीं हुई थी. So every time, but इस बुक के बारे में जब मैं प्रिपेयर भी कर रहा था, and I was just thinking कि you just can't divide it into parts as well.
Yeah.
क्योंकि इतने parts में इतना jump है कि वो sense ही नहीं बनेगा फिर. You can't even go by timelines because you will have to leave out so many parts because you can't explain trauma इस तरीके से इतने detailing के साथ. और अगर वही निकाल दोगे then it's just वो plot का discussion जो हुआ था just that much story फिर और क्या ही है.
Correct.
So we literally had to, and I think we're going to, because वही शुरू हुआ, you talked an incident, you talked an incident. I think this book could only be talked like in incidents. जैसे हम बात करते हैं कि यार पता है कल क्या हुआ था. Like this book is literally that, the talk of incidents.
Exactly.
कि पता है अवनी के साथ उस दिन ये हुआ था, पता है उसके साथ ये हुआ था उस दिन तारा के साथ. Written by Avni.
Okay, Avni, you are the main lead for us.
Literally. So ये हुआ था, and talking like that, और वो feel आती है. You know, like we know the person जिसके बारे में हम बात कर रहे हैं, and this is like, oh, amazing.
So exactly, Avanti's telling me. So I've always made notes for characters, and Avanti's like, "You've not made notes today, and you're discussing this book. What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "There are two characters, Tara and Antara. Everyone else does not exist in this book, and it's their story. So you are going to remember the story because of how she has said it."
And about the mother-daughter relation, I remember this one particular part, a very little part of a chapter. So when Antara tells her Nani that her mother has Alzheimer's, so that time I don't know what is going on in the Nani's head, but by the end of the conversation, after this line comes, her last thought was that your mother is getting fat. How are we going to pry off the bangles of her hands? And I'm like, this is not just Antara's and Tara's problem. This has been going on before that and it will continue after. So it's not, there is a reason why Tara was like that. And there is a reason why Antara is like this. Maybe if we get more backstory, we'll know why her Nani was also like that. So that was also that.
Generational trauma.
Yeah.
Correct. But I feel to a lot of extent, Antara did attempt to break that generational trauma. But obviously, Anika will only be able to tell us whether she was successful or not. But Anika is Antara's daughter. Again, white noise not very spoken about. But like, okay, to give you a brief, in according to Antara's memory, it so happened that like Avanti started with the story that her mother leaves her neglected marriage, and she goes on to this ashram where she is the active lover of that Baba who runs the ashram. And while Avanti did mention that she leaves Antara, but there was this whole 10 pages description of how Antara felt when they were in the ashram. There, like this 4-year, 5-year-old child is in the ashram. She's constantly, she wants her mother's love and attention. And her mother's, and the funny part is that it's not her mother who's incapable of loving someone or giving that kind of attention. But at the same time, you still, want, you're seeing Antara wanting it, craving for it. So that has always been that has been like the highlight of their relation. And then again, without thinking about Antara, she just leaves the ashram and they're begging on the streets.
Yeah.
They're begging on the streets till Antara's Nana sees them. Till he takes them home and he gives them a roof to live. But for I think weeks they were begging on the street. It was not just 1 day, 2 days.
And guess where they were begging? At the gate of her husband's house, club jo tha wahan pe. And they were there. And her husband, ex-husband saw that.
Exactly.
Multiple times.
And didn't do anything.
One day it was like enough, and then I think her husband came to pick her.
No, and I don't know.
Her husband came.
Okay, and then he took them, huh?
Nice.
So, but yeah, point being that again for Antara to feel like, oh Papa aa gaye, there might be some respite. He's come to take me home, and when that shattered, so I think the kid was bound to live in her own reality even after growing up, unless obviously she starts seeking therapy, which I don't think she did.
She took it once, but he deep dived a lot in the first session, so she stopped taking it. Yeah.
So yeah, and then they go to live at some artist's place, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And even he's a very young artist, and his mother's quite old. So again, Antara was seeing that pattern. Antara was a teen by then. So again, Antara was seeing that pattern that as a teenager also her mother is not, she's capable of giving that love and attention, she's just not giving it to her. So there are so many thoughts when Antara has entered well into her adulthood. Her mother seems to be indifferent, as we read on, that she does not care what she has because of her early onset. I think even she has somehow suppressed her memories and gone on believing that she didn't do as bad things as we are hearing or seeing. But even her mother is so, what's the word, very indifferent, I think that's the, or careless about this relationship.
So there was so basically it showed in the childhood section that we read, her mother's perspective was that she always wanted her dad there. She was missing her dad. But in reality, it was Antara that was missing her mother. That she could not see because since she left and was left in the ashram where she did not live with her, by the way, her mother did not live with her. She knew that she was never safe with her, and that is why maybe she wanted her father to be there to protect her. But she also wanted her mother's love, which her mother could not see, and thought it was selfish of Antara to ask for her dad when all she wanted was her mother and her father. But, ठीक है.
So even I think when this happens in Antara's, expected to take care of her mother while she's suffering from Alzheimer's and old age in general, Antara has these conflicting thoughts. Okay, she's very sweet. Sometimes she's thinking a lot about her mother. She's neglecting a lot of things, but at the same time she's conflicted. Just you said that I didn't get it when I was growing up. So why should I give now? Why is it expected out of me? Why can't I just leave? And these are the thoughts that she's written this book with, or it's like a diary to Antara. So she's written these diary notes.
And into her memory, मुझे most traumatic चीजें ये लगी that there would be so wild or heavy incidents and events, and then it'd be like that was one day, and I'm like what? And the next incident would be so time period बहुत ज़्यादा time span निकला नहीं होगा. It's not कि one incident is when she's 6 years old and second incident is when she's 9 years old या सीधा 13 पे जाके और later. It's just that कि एक आज हुआ है, एक परसों हो रहा है, एक फिर एक हफ्ते बाद है, and those are so major big back to back to back, और उनका impact कितना last करता है और तभी कुछ और हो जाता है. So there are layers of incidents जो हुए जा रहे हैं, and how he, and also how she's seeing her mother behaving with others as compared to how she is behaving with her constantly. कि like if she's even alive, उसकी माँ को फिक्र नहीं हो रही है when she's in ashram. We did not know उसकी मदर का पर्सपेक्टिव में भी उसने काली माँ को बोला होगा ख्याल रखने, हो सकता है, like we don't know at all कि तब उसको काली माँ शायद रिपोर्ट करते हुए बता देती होगी. She would say कि कि बाबा मुझे नहीं आने देता तो तू ध्यान रख ले. I'm just giving good reasons probably, but we don't know that all. And Kalima was the friend जो उसने आश्रम में बनाई थी अंतरा ने, and that moment as well I felt कि तब एक और trigger ये भी हो सकता है that because Kalima was an elder or mom's age sort of, so she saw that a person of that age could love you, could take care of you in a way you think you are supposed to be, because she's still a child. She does not know actually बाहर के 1 करोड़ parents क्या कर रहे हैं. वो तो दूर से ही देखा है जो भी देखा, इतना exposure था नहीं. So when the real comparison I think उसके brain में भी तब आया वो जब actually काली माँ ने उसकी थोड़ी care की है, behaved like a friend. तो she's like okay I'm not supposed to be treated trash. ये जो कर रही है वो बहुत ज़्यादा गलत कर रही है. So that was very interestingly layered things जो उसमें है and थोड़ा triggering है but it is what it is.
And her so her father, I was going to say ex-father.
Ex-father. Oh, I like that.
He was a pope. So anyway, so her father, when her father got remarried, so she did like his wife, but her mother did not take her ex-lover's new love interest in a good way, because when her father was getting married, when she got to know that, she used to call him and cuss at him and her mother-in-law, and that happened. And when it happened at the ashram with Baba, she just left it with no plan. She had no clue how she was going to make both of them survive, but she still left because she did not want to be there. And yeah, so we get to see both perspectives ki here her daughter is also seeing all that, and she's seeing that her mother can give love to multiple people but me, it was always someone else.
And at the same time, her mother wasn't willing to let her go. It wasn't ठीक है, she was indifferent, but at the same time I feel अगर तारा उससे अलग होती तो वो जिंदा नहीं रह पाती. Yeah, maybe she would have done something drastic to fill that void. But so it's like you accept the love you kind of deserve, but you also give the love you think you deserve. So somewhere her mother felt that because she's made so many mistakes in her life, she doesn't deserve that kind of love, and so she feels even Andara doesn't deserve, because she is the byproduct of that love. So I feel that so this book is again, it brings us to so many complex emotions in your brain trying to understand one action. It's like it's as interesting as when the teacher says the curtains are blue and you're relating it to the writer's mood and everything. It was symbolic in some sense, but here it actually is.
Curtains are blue.
But here it actually is. You have to relate to that, symbolic gesture in this book. And I feel when we used to take those instances for very granted, कि हाँ dark है तो अब वो darkness की बात करेंगे. I think how Avni has worked is she has made us realize the importance of symbolism. So I think she's very brilliant. I hope she wins the Booker Prize if she hasn't.
And going forward, her mother had a very interesting relationship with a very, very interesting person, Reza. Oh, Reza. And Reza's introduction, the entry scene, जिसे कहते हैं, has been very interesting as well. He was a waiter. In that whole, the main conversation where we get to know who Reza actually is. And again, Reza की backstory अभी तक नहीं पता होती है. So we are judging him from this conversation. And जब उसकी backstory पता लगती है, it's the same way, कि you be like, ए यार ये तूने गलत किया. And then suddenly when you hear his backstory and they be like, चल यार इतना भी बुरा नहीं था, वो अगली बार मत करना. Those things. Yeah. That it is wrong unless you hear the backstory वाली चीज. So which is very creatively interesting thing और बहुत सही टाइम वही कि सही चीज सही टाइम पे रिवील करना. So Reza had a conversation where Canada में they used to live और फिर ये होता है कि फिर वहाँ से क्यों आए. So he says कि because Canadian government deported them because उनको ये हुआ कि they felt that उसके पापा जो है Reza के पापा जो है he is a communist. तो everyone was like saying, no, so sorry for that कि तुम्हें ऐसा होना पड़ा, अरे ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. But was your father a communist? And Reza is like, of course he is. And I'm like, what क्या? So he's upfront. Yeah, obviously वो है. There was nothing wrong in that. तो ठीक है, वो बहुत ऐसा upfront type का person है. And major thing now, उसके relationships. I think उसके relationship with mother and what else happens when Reza is around, पहले बताना चाहिए, and then we will talk about Reza's past story. because that layer will be very nice.
So, do you want to?
So, during that time, I think Reza and her mother and Antara were living together for almost 6 years. And they used to, I think they just used to explore the city. He was a photographer and he used to capture the city as, and he was always the one behind the camera. So that is an interesting part that comes up later. And so yeah, so about that, I don't remember much about Reza, but he was a good character. Not undermining him.
And even the mother's relationship with Reza also spoiled the, thoughts or spoiled the essence and feelings and emotions of Antara even more. क्योंकि वो रिलेशनशिप उसको दिख रहा है कि रेड फ्लैग्स क्या होते हैं जो रेजा कर रहा है, बट हर मदर स्टिल बीइंग विद हिम एंड वाइस वर्सा एज वेल probably made her believe that red flags are okay in relationship, which again comes later on जबकि उसने भी ऐसे रिलेशनशिप क्यों सपोर्ट की and why things happen like that. तो that's very interesting कि मॉम चाहती है कि वो मेरी तरह ना बने, वो चाहती है मैं मॉम की तरह ना बनूं, yet both of them are impacting each other और वो एक ही तरह बनते जा रहे हैं. It's a repeated story with different characters वाली situation create होती जा रही है. And that's very उसमें, and Reza is that sort of a character जो who would date a person for 2 months और फिर गायब हो जाएगा, who had a very, उसका habit जो है वो है, like if he's smoking 20 cigarettes a day, he'll smoke 20 cigarettes a day without caring about you, and the moment he would want to care about you, he'll care about you for 5 minutes to maybe have a body or whatever it is. उसका character वो है. उसका जर्नलिज्म, उसका फोटोग्राफी वाज टॉप नॉच और बहुत जगह कवर्ड भी हुआ था. दैट्स अ सेपरेट पार्ट, दैट्स अ सेपरेट स्किल दैट ही हैज, एंड दैट डज नॉट ओवरकम द फैक्ट कि वो कितना ज्यादा टॉक्सिक था. या आई मीन टॉक्सिक वर्ड वुड बी सेइंग इन अ जेंटल वे. वो इतना ज्यादा टॉक्सिक था. द टॉक्सिक वुड बी द मोस्ट gentle way I could express what Reza was apparently. And then when we get to read his backstory, I don't know, like, does it support or justify or helps in molding whatever he had. So he's one of his most weird, prominent, best and worst altogether experience happened was in Gothrakand, happened in Gujarat. Who knows about it, they know about it. Who don't know about it, they don't know about it. This is not that sort of a podcast. And
go read.
Cancel culture.
So Godrakand, he was apparently covering it when he was covering it being a Muslim. So he's not just like a journalist जो वहाँ आ जाए who could get hurt. He was also the person others were trying to kill as well. So he was running for his life as well while covering the whole thing. When he took this shelter in a family's house, who luckily let him in, and they hid there for quite a long time without getting out at all. I mean, a literal lockdown for them. And they don't know that which knock on the door would kill them. Apparently, usi moment pe. And it had a full-fledged family. Even there Reza had a relationship. Even there Reza had interesting relationships and interesting sections with the people who saved his life, literally. So, वहाँ पे भी वो है. So you can't even say that incident made him who he was, because even there he apparently was very similar.
Yeah,
in
but
his
then
actions.
kind of it changes you if you experience something life changing or
Yeah.
life saving or life affecting. I think it changes how you look at relations in general and your whole perspectives, even a near death experience.
I was coming to that maybe that not near death, it's like death is sitting beside you.
Yeah.
The moment she turns her, it was like just that snap time that her moving her head or dead.
Yeah.
So उस moment में there are only two kind of outcomes that can happen. One is कि what's death, let's live our life, and secondly कि what's death, super depressed. So and वो दोनों के बीच में फंस गया. और ही वॉज वेरी सैडली टॉक्सिक, कैसे बोल सकते हैं उसको,
I feel he was
कांस्टेंट बीटी में रहता है पर्सन,
undiagnosed bipolar.
डायग्नोस्ड बाइपोलर, एंड देन आल्सो ही वाज अ पर्सन जो किसी भी मोमेंट पे उठ के गायब हो जाता है एंड स्टार्ट्स अ न्यू लाइफ ऑल टुगेदर. तो वो दोनों तरफ बहुत अजीब जंप्स ले रहा था. एंड मे बी दैट व्हाट्स डेथ वाली चीज उसके दिमाग में है, एंड देन ही इज लाइक कि क्या ही फर्क पड़ता है अगर और लोग मुझे बुरा समझते हैं कभी, या मेरे बारे में क्या सोचते हैं, और इफ आई लीव देम एज वेल, कि वैसे भी मर जाऊंगा तभी भी तो चला ही जाऊंगा, दे स्टिल गोना बी लिव विदाउट. शायद वो थॉट्स बहुत ज्यादा उसके दिमाग में भर गए. जस्ट ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड थॉट इफ आई
Correct. And another thing I particularly, it's very passable in the book, but also something that you have to mention is when she's constantly drawing the one
Yeah.
face. Okay, and again, coming back to our memory point, that face is different. Okay, you see sometimes the beard is different, sometimes the eye is different, and she draws this face almost every day. Every free moment she's drawing this face. She says that she's doing this series of these faces, and she is saying that she has been doing it because she saw this one face for that one fleeting second and then never saw it again. So she's trying to recreate that from her memory every day. And I think she drew for more than some 300 days.
हाँ समथिंग
Yeah,
पूरा
yeah,
साल
yeah.
तो उसने
Full
पूरा
year.
एक बनाया.
And this was also covered in an art exhibition. This was her most
Sure.
famous.
The
Oh,
big art
yeah.
exhibition
Yeah,
which
yeah,
was
yeah.
not received well.
Yeah.
Which was not
And
received
they
well.
literally told her कि कुछ अलग अच्छा तुम्हारी art अच्छी है but अगर अलग चीजें बनाओगी then we could showcase but
Correct.
this we can't because people are not understanding the
The
thought.
difference.
ये
Yeah.
चारों तरफ एक ही तो चल रहा है.
And there was the starting image and the ending image, and they were almost identical. So
But-
people could,
But also apart.
yeah, but also apart. So people could not understand what was being
Yeah.
conveyed
So
through it.
abstract thought, the main thought behind it for her was that कि हम I think this just hit me right now यार. This is the metaphor जो तुमने starting में बोला था.
हाँ.
Crazy no कि so उसका इस art experiment के लिए the whole thought was that कि we see something for once उसके बाद उसका impact रह जाता है हमारे life में हमारे अंदर जो है और हर दिन हमारे दिमाग में उसका चेहरा उसके एट्रीब्यूट्स
Change.
हमारा जो हमें उसका ख्याल आ रहा है उसके हिसाब से चेंज हो सकता है. लाइक इफ वी आर थिंकिंग हमारी जो मेमोरी क्लिक हो रही है इज दैट कि दैट पर्सन वाज सैड उस दिन जिस दिन मैंने देखा. यू माइट मेक अ लिटिल रिंकल्स और आईज बीइंग लाइक स्लेट और थोड़ी सी क्लोज्ड. बट अगर आपको लेट से 6 महीने बाद जो मेमोरी आ रही है बिकॉज़ यू आर हैप्पी अराउंड यू और सडनली आपको बंदा याद आता है वाले ए मे बी शायद वो स्माइल कर रहा था एंड देन यू विल हैव हिज आईज लिट अप देयर विल बी नो और वो चेंजेस उस हिसाब से हो सकते हैं.
Exactly.
And that's what की memories जो है वो इतनी fragile है
Flimsy.
because of so many things and that's how the book is written.
Yeah.
उसको पूरी की memories पूरी fragile ही थी.
Yeah, that's
She
why it's
might be
worth
drawing
mentioning.
somebody else but she was putting her life into it. Oh damn, it just clicked me. Wow. I am telling you this is one of the best books that could ever be written. I am telling you this again. Just the writing part. How can someone write with this perfection that you wow that even while you're talking about the book you're realizing 2-3 extra things.
Exactly.
You are realizing.
No, I also just
You.
realized.
Oh my god.
That's why you should watch Two Bookdragons. You get these different angles
You
and
get 3
realizations.
perspectives. 2. Today 3.
नहीं आ सकती हो तुम.
फिर 3 books dragons.
Let us know in the comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so cheers to Saurabh's and Avanti's realizations.
That was the theme of the whole painting
Book.
that she was
Yes.
making. That's the
And the book.
And the book.
And human life.
but the exhibition was not well received. उसकी वजह से उसे problems आई. But she continued doing this thing. उसको यही था कि यही करना है. And then there were a lot of questions, a lot of times. Who is this person? Who is this person? जिसके लिए उसके पास एक ही जवाब था कि I might have seen him somewhere और वो दिमाग में stuck कर गया. And why this person is just because कि कोई person चाहिए था. There is nothing like that person impacted her life or anything like that. That was a clear explanation.
And
She
you
just
know,
had to pick somebody so that person.
the line of thought here when we talk about this, where she's kind of using this person as a muse, you also like the first thought that comes into your head is दिलीप इसका हार्ट और देखता नहीं है क्या?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, okay, if this person is a muse and a romantic interest, then and Dilip is not noticing it, then okay, it makes sense. Because yeah, there was no conversation or something that proved that. I think एक बार शायद उसने पूछ लिया था कि कौन है.
That was at the end.
But it was very brief as a this thing. It wasn't. Yes.
That shrugged her off the shoulder वाली चीज थी कि ठीक
Yeah.
है. पर अच्छा वो
हाँ वैसे. But okay, coming to the end.
Yes, the end. So at the end, there is more focus on Reza, because that is who the actually both of their stories are around mostly. So what happens is, after living together for 6 years, Reza disappears one day and he never comes back. So that happened, and obviously her mother was grieving that. And I think it was shown only that much. She was just grieving. She would be locked in her room. She would not pay attention to Antara. ये वो जो भी था. And the interesting part after this comes, because when I read this, I was like, "Bhai,
Shut the book.
yes." And I literally read that. I was like, what? And then, so basically, Antara goes to an exhibition, art exhibition, and she sees someone familiar. And then she realizes it is Reza. And after that, you know the kind of vibe that they are going to. And they talk, they meet, and he does not ask about her mother at all. And so what happened was, she was finding it very complicated to give an answer to how is your mother and where is your mother. So she made up a lie that she has passed away, and she was telling this to her family and friends, everyone. And family as in not the close family, of course, mostly her friends. And one time when she was with Reza, she was telling someone on the call that her mother had passed away, and Reza did not react at all. So you can understand the level of toxicity कि मतलब एक बार लाइफ से चला गया तो हो गया, उसके बाद कुछ नहीं पूछना उसके बारे में. So that happened. And coming back to Antara and Reza, so they had met in an art exhibition. They go out for dinner somewhere, and then there is a party in this mud island, which the location is not never decided until the last moment.
Rave party.
So they of course do all sorts of things there. They are dancing, they're drinking.
Rave party.
Okay. And then the next chapter starts with, how do I say this? Do you want to do it? So after the rave party,
They understood one word. They understood a whole chapter उसके अंदर का बिल्कुल ही. Oh, ऐसा बोलो ना.
Andhra wakes up
next
to
Reza, who
Who
is
was-
naked.
her father figure at one point.
Yes, and that was the point where I took a break from reading the book for some time, and 1 hour later I picked it up. And
I was coming there. मुझे कितना लंबा था.
because it was so interesting, I wanted to know what happened after that.
Yeah. Took you an hour.
I was processing it.
Took you an hour.
Anyway, then later they walk into the art gallery together, holding hands, and you know that couple thing. And some of the people there knew Reza's history with her mother, and they gave them side eyes, and you know what the fuck is going on here, wala thing.
Beep.
Thank you. And yeah, so that is there, and that is one part of the book which is like, I don't know, I was not ready for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and after that again the same thing, same cycle repeat hota hai. They are there together, everything is happening, but they are not talking about it. And the minute that Antara feels something for Reza, you know what he did. He left after like 4 years, I think.
वहाँ पर 4 years नहीं, not years I think.
Are you sure?
Damn.
Book
पढ़ो. You find it out.
I
years
can
or months,
very.
Till then I'll tell you. So what happens is that when Reza left, the reaction of Antara was that, oh, ये तो होना ही था. अच्छा आज हो गया. Like she was ready probably every day that this could be the day he's leaving, this could be the day he's leaving, this could be the day he's leaving, and then she was like, oh, चला गया. Okay, ठीक है. Like she was
I
not just
think
prepared but conditioned पूरा properly, and that shows कि उसे पता था रिजा की सारी red flags, and
हाँ.
yet she was like, ठीक है ये
4 years after we had run
4 years.
into each other.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry, Mama.
Told you.
But yeah, I mean, it just, so again, drawing out the points that she did exactly what her mother did at one point.
Exactly.
वही चीज.
And that is why somewhere her mother thought that she was a competition rather than her daughter.
This is explained there.
Yes, it is explained.
Constantly at the teenage age,
Yes.
there would be those uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable conversations, while her mother, in uncomfortable situation, would tell her that, sort
Yeah.
of things ki, are you gonna turn uglier than me when you will be in your 40s? You have a
Yeah.
beautiful body right now, body that would appeal men, and बस एज तक ही है, and made her feel that कि men want this or a certain एज तक ही रहने वाला है, and
She sexualized
yeah,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot.
very much.
Her own.
and उसके thoughts उस हिसाब से फिर प्रोसेस हुआ है इसमें थोड़ा थोड़ा कहीं ना कहीं, and maybe that could, मुझे ऐसा लगा कि this was one of the reason that Reza relationship happened. I
Yeah.
think. And another thing why Reza relationship happened जो मुझे बहुत strongly लग रहा है is that कि उसकी मॉम ने बाबा वाले टाइम तो चलो अलग है, एंड बिकॉज अंतरा कुड नेवर मीट बाबा अगेन एज वाली चीज भी है, एंड देन बस जब रेजा वाली चीज भी दोबारा हुई तो एक और से वो कांस्टेंट उसको लगा दैट व्हाट इट इज विद देम, दैट माय मदर कैन लव देम बट कैन नॉट लव मी, एंड व्हेन रेजा केम बैक टू हर लाइफ उसका ये थॉट भी हो सकता है आया हो that because of the trauma that she would like to know what this person had कि जो मेरी मॉम को मिला बट मुझे नहीं मिला.
Correct.
और मेरी मॉम से भी नहीं मिला मुझे. So, and it ended up making her living the same life
Correct.
as her mom, even after watching how miserable that is.
True. So, Ekdam, do you want to like talk about the last 5 pages? How the book?
We actually forgot about a very important part, her boarding school days.
Oh yes.
See, I'm telling you, आप कितने भी parts में वो कर लो, there will be something prominent जो रह ना जाए वाली चीज है.
And it played a very big part, I feel, somewhere where she, you know, it was shown that they had glorified, violence and, beating for disciplining children, kind of. And the thing is, all of that, so she was in a boarding school where she was not put by choice. Matlab, she didn't have choice, obviously. And she was in an all girls boarding school where they were living in a gymnasium for a while because something had happened in the dorms. And there was, they were not allowed to. No, they were not allowed. nahi. The washroom was outside and it was always very dark. So that is also another part there. And they were extremely strict. So there have been shown that she was, beaten very badly because she was, there were drawings or lines on her books that were given to her, and the one who beats her tells her that she was not grateful for them because she was ruining them by drawing on them. And I think that is where her art came into picture.
Even when she was with the doctor Alzheimer के checkup
Yeah,
के mom
yeah,
के
yeah,
साथ,
yeah.
she was making art so that
Art.
she could remember, समझ सके कि क्या हो रहा है.
Yes,
in
yes.
her own abstract way कहीं
Yeah.
ना कहीं. And then they jumped to her adulthood life. Adulthood life was quite fast paced after marriage वाली जो है, which majorly was कि वो जर्मन बेकरी में मिले थे, वो थोड़ा देखा था कि पिकअप लाइन वाली चीजें, शादी होना, a bit relationship, and then major is when her mother's Alzheimer come in. उसके so Antara and Dilip's relationship have been romanticized a little bit थोड़ा बहुत यहाँ ना कहीं, but वहाँ पे भी red flags notice किए गए हैं और बताए गए हैं दोनों तरफ से थोड़ा थोड़ा. And then it says कि her mother has the Alzheimer और वो उसका ख्याल रखती है. Now she's jumping in between her house and mother's house constantly, but जब situation और worse होने लग जाती है तो she's proposes that कि अब mom को लेना ही पड़ेगा. With all the hate, maybe hate is a very hate, not say hate, but complexities, she still would take her in, and still be like कि maybe one of the thought would be, as you said in starting, कि उसे याद क्यों नहीं, उसे याद होना चाहिए उसने क्या
होना
किया है.
चाहिए.
Or another thing is like, at the end of the day, she is my mother, and what she did not do for me, I'll show her how to do this. But वो बार बार the thought that was coming up was that कि इसको याद क्यों नहीं है, और इसकी वजह से मैं भी नहीं करूंगी, क्योंकि मैं भी नहीं करूंगी तो उसको याद आएगा कि इसने क्या नहीं किया है. And another thought that was fighting with first was this, because she did not do anything for me, I should do things for her. And उसी के वो इंसिडेंट्स चलते हैं और सब कुछ चलता रहता है और दिलीप इन्वॉल्वमेंट वगैरह भी चलती रहती है. एनी प्रोमिनेंट इंसिडेंट दैट यू वांट टू जब
The last bit.
The last bit happens where उसकी मॉम वो फोटो जब देखती है और जब वो पूरा वाला आता है, then she is like कि who is this person, और constantly कई बार पूछती है, and taking advantage of the Alzheimer, Antara was always like कि नहीं है वो, को देखा नहीं है ये वो blah blah, and then she's like फोटो कैसे तेरे पास, क्योंकि इससे पहले तक वो ये बताती थी कोई बंदा बस देखा है, and now there is a photograph जिसकी वो पूरी पेंटिंग्स बनी पड़ी थी. And then suddenly one day her mother realizes Antara is already pregnant और वो महीने चल रहे हैं, and then she just realizes, boom, who this person is, and it turns out to be Reza. The only photograph of Reza that existed in between them, she stole it from Reza's house. And
sorry.
Yes, and that was the person जो वो पूरा बना रही थी, but had only one look at the photo. She would not.
She had actually, again, she did not remember if she had destroyed that picture or not, because it was very clear in her memory that she had destroyed it. There is no way anyone was going to find out. But one day, out of the boxes, there comes the photograph, and her mother asks. And all that happens, and then Dilip is a little concerned. मतलब इतने साल चल रहा था तभी उसको नहीं दिमाग में आया.
और तभी भी फिर उसने माँ को पटा लिया.
Yeah.
She had the daughter.
Yeah, so her mother told Antara that if you don't tell Dilip, I will, and I will ruin your marriage. And from the time that she, got that, her mother is going to tell this to Dilip, she was looking for a plan to, safeguard herself, because she did not that. I'm not saying that. She had, she never had a real job. So she was asking around if she should get a job in case Dilip leaves her. And the one way she found out, to be secure was to have a child. And that is why they got pregnant, and to save the marriage. And there was also this neighbor something who interjected. I don't know why people involved in other people's life. Anyway.
What happens in the end?
Yeah. Oh, yes, this part. So in the end, it is a family gathering where her father, his new family, mother, Nani, Dilip, her friend Purvi, which is like a weird character, and
yeah, I actually don't understand why she's bringing these characters.
I know. And again, there was a little, bi side shown of, Antara, which was like representation matters. And that, I think Purvi was just for that. I feel. Yeah.
Publisher बाद में बोलते हैं, by the way,
थोड़ा करना पड़ेगा. And there is only one mention of it. So it's not a whole thing, but still, it's there. So in the end, all of these people are there. Dilip is there. Her mother-in-law is there, and her mother-in-law was actually caring for her while postpartum, and her mother was trying to get involved, but they were not sure if the baby would be safe with her. So they didn't even used to let her pick her up. So her mother tried every opportunity to, tana marna to her mother-in-law that you never put with this, you never do like that, we never did it like that at our place. And since she is also an NRI, so there was that difference also. कि तुम जो करना तुम्हारे यहाँ पे करो, हमारे यहाँ पे ऐसे ही चलता है, kind of like that. And so in the end that happens, and that is not the end, sorry. So in the end that the gathering was going on, and everyone is paying attention to the baby, obviously, and Antara feels like she is invisible in the room. And at that point of time, what had happened was, just before that, she had kept her mother on a diet which made her brain healthier, and she was remembering things. But then it got a little triggered with her new daughter also, that no one is paying attention to me, and that why should she, she had that envy, but she wanted to control what her mother was thinking. So again, after all that effort, after all that, diet and, bringing her memories back, just because she wanted to control it, she put her on, the sugar diet, so that it messes with her brain and she starts forgetting things. And that was going on there, and she thought that no one would suspect it because everyone is thinking like ki, these are her last dates, so she's treating her like that. No one suspected what is going on in Antara's head. And so there are many mentions of, her looking down from the balcony with her baby in her hand, and she's thinking, what should I do, which is again very, never talked about. And then again, so at the, why do I keep, getting
She has started the end like 15 minutes ago probably, and we have rolled back to talk a lot of incidents about the book, but the end.
Coming back to the end, that is happening, and what happens was there is a conversation going on between Dilip, her husband, and her father. So something is going on, and they are talking about this one particular person that Antara does not like. And when they are talking, and her father says, yeah, he's a gentleman. I don't remember who that person was, that he's a gentleman. And Antara is like, he's not a gentleman. And there is pinned off silence in the room for like 5 minutes, and everyone is, just looking at each other, what to do, what to say. And something else pops up. I think her mother-in-law tells कि चाय बना दो, ऐसा कुछ तो हो जाता है. And then they again continue. There are no follow-up questions of what, why, what happened, why are you saying like this. Her father also is like, ठीक है, रहने देते हैं. And in the end, her mother's memory or something triggers, and she starts, not screaming, she's being forceful that give me the baby, and she does not say baby, she says give me Antara, because she thinks that baby is Antara, and she is constantly asking for the baby. And there was no way to calm her down. Her nani tried, Antara tried, there was no way. So they gave her the baby, and she sat next to Dilip, and she asked Dilip that do you love this baby, and he says yes. She asked, do you love me? He says yes, I love you. And that is the moment where you realize that Tara thinks that Antara, that baby is Antara, and Dilip is her husband. She is imagining what she never got. And that is where Antara is so fed up that just because my mother is sick, you are allowing her to do anything, say anything. And that is where she screams, stop this madness, stop this madness. But no one in the room is listening to her because she is drowned in the, gathering of people, and no one can see her. And that is where the book ends. And the last line is, I can only see myself in the mirror, my reflection in the mirror. And that is the point where I can see the room is so dark, and I can only see Antara in front of mirror. And that is how it ends. And it is just so abruptly left, but also such a nice ending. I don't know how she wrote this book, yeah.
Depression had a visual.
Yeah.
Another side part, what if the end means that most of the things did not even happen?
नहीं.
मतलब I don't get
I mean,
how.
like the, let's say now, this is very interestingly, because she's been so used to see her mother jumping into relationships, और तो उसकी मॉम वहाँ बैठी हो, she would think again that thing, और उसकी मॉम का वो स्नैप, क्योंकि उसने जब there were always similarities, उसकी डॉटर, तो उसकी वजह से उसकी मॉम का स्नैप शायद हुआ हो, या बट आई एम सेइंग इसकी शायद स्नैप हुआ ही ना हो, इट्स शी थिंकिंग की स्नैप हुआ है, बिकॉज अगेन शी इज ऑल्सो फीलिंग कि मुझ पे कोई फिक्र नहीं डाल रहा है, मेरी मॉम सीखे उस पे फिक्र डाल रहे हैं, नहीं बीबी उस पे फिक्र डाल रहे हैं, पर मेरे पे फिक्र नहीं डाल रहा है, एंड दैट्स वेयर शी इज, उसको वो स्नैप हुआ, और rather than her mother having a snap, rather than Tara having a snap, it might be Antara having a snap, and she thinking those कुछ चीजें अपने दिमाग से बहुत पहले से, और that might also have maybe बहुत से जो ब्लर्ड विजन्स हैं वो अंतरा ने बुरी, जैसे मैं वो कालीमा वाला एग्जांपल भी दे रहा था, वी हैड नो आइडिया कि व्हाट इफ तारा सेट इट अप कालीमा, यू नेवर नो, और तो वैसा आई एम लाइक बीच में बहुत से ऐसे मूवमेंट्स ऐसे हो सकते हैं जो शायद अंतरा ने वो पीटीएसडी वाली सिचुएशन की वजह से मिस आउट कर दिए, एंड हर समटाइम्स वही चीज की sometimes the curtains are blue, sometimes you don't read into it, maybe she sometimes read too much into it, और उसकी वो फिजी मेमोरीज वाले इंसिडेंट्स को उसने एंटायर ट्रूथ मान लिया, because we only know that part. I mean, this is an argument जो आप किसी भी बुक के बारे में ले सकते हो, but couple of situations के snap में you could say कि wait a minute, is she just thinking this or is this really happening? Just couple of जगह पे.
And there was also this incident that she was told that caretakers of such Alzheimer's people is not an easy job and it can affect you also. But she did not take that seriously. Maybe because of that, that snap wala thing could be because Antara could have snapped. We don't know that.
Closing thoughts.
That's it. No, I mean, it's a very heavy book. It's a very intense book. To again bring up the question that it unconditions what you have always been thinking. And I think it kind of gets you ready for the thoughts that you have also not even pictured could ever come true. So yeah, I mean it's a very aram se padne wala book. You can't read it and finish it thinking it's a story, are maza aayega mother daughter story, because it's a lot more than that. And what Avni Doshi has done in with her writing in this book is actually bring forward the kind of narrative that I think should be talked about. So yes.
Your closing thoughts.
Amazing book. That's all I have to say. I mean, I think I've told the entire story with so many little thoughts. ऐसे ऐसे भी हुआ था, ऐसे भी हुआ था. But yeah, the end was the start and end. The start makes sense now. So yeah, those are my
So
closing.
if you feel you enjoyed whatever we discussed today, or these are the concepts that you really love to read about, go pick this book up. If you want to learn how to write, go pick this book up. And it's an amazingly good job, I would say. Good job. Sort of a book.
Yeah, kudos Avni Doshi. Three Book
Shout out.
Dragons are in
Avni
love with
Doshi
you.
OP. So, Avni OP in the comments. Okay.
But thank you, Avni. Abanti.
Oh, did you know we have Avni with us? That was a surprise.
Imagine I remove my
Yeah.
Thank you, Avanti.
Did you have fun on the show?
Very much.
Would you like to come back again?
If you invite me.
You can do whatever, he will invite you.
So, if you like the podcast and want us, Two Dragons
Plus one.
plus one, having more fun, then subscribe, like, share, and tell us in the comments. And do tell us which book you would want us to do next. Like you told us to do this book, so we did this book. Now you can tell us which book to do in the next episode. And till then, we would like to sign out. Anything you would like to say before we go?
Please pick a book with less than 250 pages. Please. For now.
See you.
Bye bye.